hydrangea placement. If you put them out in the sun, you deal with sun scorch. If you put them in the shade, you might not get enough flowers. What is the right spot for hydrangea? How do you take care of them so that they have beautiful green leaves, the flowers come out, and they stay healthy throughout the growing season? So let's talk about that in today's video, and I'll share with you a mistake I made on this one here. Alright, and welcome back. So I was about to make a video on how to repair concrete statues, garden art, and I realized there's probably a helpful video that should be made about hydrangeas. And you can see back behind me there's a planter with a hydrangea in it, and I've got several of them in the yard. I'm actually going to take you through and show you a few things about placement, sun, shade, some things with that, and hopefully give you a few things to think about with hydrangeas, which are an incredibly beautiful shrub, bush, plant thing that has beautiful flowers, and it has great green color throughout the growing season. But kind of the backstory of this, I was on vacation last week. I knew the sun was coming out pretty strong, and in the Seattle area, when you go on vacation, that's when the sun comes out, and you come back and it rains. It's just how it works. Well, I knew the sun was coming. I'm going to leave anyway. I got my system for watering and the drip system and all that taken care of. And so I got back from the vacation. We had several days that were here that were in the upper 80s, kind of 90s. And so I knew the plants were going to be facing some things that they had not had this year yet. And some of the plants may not love it. Well, overall things were fine except for two hydrangeas. One in particular, the one behind me, I'll show you in a second. It's still alive, it's still doing well, but because of several days of very bright and hot sun that I thought this was going to avoid, but with my placement, it got sun-scorched leaves. And so let me show you what this looks like and talk about placement, shade, sun, heat, some of those things, and how hydrangeas will respond best. Hopefully give you something to think about. And then next week we'll come back and do the video on fixing concrete statues, which maybe you're interested in, maybe not. All right, let me take you in close and show you what this looks like. And actually, before I show you too much about the sun-scorched leaf, let me back up here and kind of show you what it has. So you can see there's that porch roof that comes up and over, and the sun, so the sun comes from behind me here and goes, it'll come and go over the roof, and it'll set past the house, past the roof there, kind of by those trees. It'll set back that direction. So it definitely does not get the evening or the late afternoon sun, but there's not enough shade on that where the early afternoon, definitely late morning sun is hitting that thing pretty well. So let me take you in close. So you can see here the leaves are sun-scorched. The plant's still very much alive, but when a hydrangea is out in the sun and gets the heat of the day, you'll get these leaves that just cannot take it, and they brown and they look gross and ugly. And this is a mild sun scorching, but last year I had a couple of these that I came back and the whole thing was just brown. And within a week or two, there was several spots where, let me see where you see new life. See how, like right here, there's new life coming up. Very quickly, it'll keep growing new life, and you can break off and cut off the bad leaves. But the way to avoid that is simply placement. They like morning sun. They do need 4 hours, maybe 6 hours of sun. They like shade, so kind of a light sun to shade kind of spot. In fact, let me shift over just a few feet. Look where this one is, and look how different that is. So this one was about 5 feet away, and probably got about 2 hours less of sun, maybe not even that much. But sun-scorched, look at that. So you can see here just a little difference in the heat in the sun of the day will take this thing and bring quite a difference. So here from the patio you can see there's just this deep and bright green, and this one had that before I left on vacation. But again, it's all about placement. Coming over here next to the studio, we've got another one. This is one I had transplanted in an earlier video, and it's doing really well. It's got a little bit of the sun scorch, so it got some late afternoon heat, but not nearly as bad as the other one. So it gets protected from the full morning and early afternoon. It's got this this kind of roof thing, so it really gets blocked, but it'll get the late afternoon, early evening sun. And so again, placement matters. Again, sun scorch is where you go and you get You can see the tips of the leaves, the outer edges are starting to get kind of that yellowish brown, starts to die back. And if it gets a really bad case, that whole leaf will just continue to get brown all the way through, and you'll lose a good amount of those. But this one's kind of a mild sun scorching, some couple of real hot days, and just couldn't tolerate the amount of sun it was getting. So here behind me is another hydrangea. This one has been here for a few years and done really well. This one gets blocked by these hedges, and there's a weeping cherry tree here. I've got a very tall, some shrubs over here on the side that you can't see here in the camera, but this thing gets a lot of coverage from the sun because of the tall things around it, and it does pretty well. There's just a couple leaves that have a little bit of brown sun scorch on there, but again, the key is to place it in a spot that is shade to maybe it gets morning sun or just a little bit of sun through the day. Definitely does not like the hot temperature. So if you live in a climate that has a lot of heat in the summertime, you got to keep that thing out of the sun. So it really does well with about 4 hours. If you get too little light on there, too little sun on there, it'll grow fine, but you may not get a lot of the flowers. So kind of that sweet spot seems to be that 4 to 6 hours of sunlight, and you'll get some great flowers that'll continue to thrive. Just keep it out of the hot, bright sun. So what do you do with a hydrangea that's been sun scorched? So a couple things about it. First off, if it happens early in the season, or if it's in a spot where you can move it after it starts to get some of that the brown leaves, if you have it like in a planter or something like that, then great, you can move it, relocate it. If it gets pretty toasted like this one has, and I still have a lot of growing season left and I can already see new growth starting to come, one of the things you can do is you can go through and clip a lot of those brown leaves and kind of get rid of some of the unsightly parts, and the new growth will come and it'll be fine. So I'll take you through that in just a moment. But if it's in a place where you can't really move it, sometimes you might actually want to put like some shade over it, an umbrella or something when the really hot days happen. So I'm in the Northwest Seattle area, and in our summers we get some really good hot days. Not very often, but we might get a week where we're hitting 90s or even 100. Last year I had a couple hydrangeas that were in some good shade, but just because of so many days of 100 degrees, it was just crazy heat wave that came through in early July. I had several of them that I didn't lose the plant, but I lost them for that year. They got pretty beat up, and it took the rest of the growing season for them to recover, and they didn't look good until this year, and they've come back. In fact, this is one of the ones that came back really well about a week and a half ago before I left on vacation. This thing was beautiful. It was bright and dark green leaves all over. I could see flower buds getting started. But now with the sun scorched, I know I still got growth coming, but I want to go ahead and get rid of some of these unsightly leaves. So I'm just going to go through and clip a lot of them. And I'm just clipping off the leaf. I don't want to clip off my flower buds, but because I've got a lot of green leaves that are below it, I know it's going to get plenty of sun, still do well. But I'm just going to go through and get rid of some of these unsightly ones and just kind of clean it up a little bit. It'll probably get 80% of it. I'll show you what this looks like when I'm all done. But hopefully that'll help kind of make this thing look good. And then in a couple of weeks when the new growth kind of grows, the big leaves and all that, it'll cover up whatever was left on there. So it's okay to do that. Now, if your plant does not have a lot of green leaves left, and some of these are like half brown, half green, you might want to leave some of those so that the photosynthesis and some of the growths can still happen. You know, if this thing had been out in the sun for 3 weeks and really just the whole thing browned up, I might just leave it for the year and let this thing just kind of survive on its own. Just want to make sure I don't kill the plant in the process of pruning it back some. So let me take you through and just show you how I'll deal with the sun-scorched hydrangea here. And just like that, we're done. You can see it's not completely fixed and green. There's still a little bit of brown edges here and there, but 90%, 80% of it is cleaned up. So at least to the eye, it looks much better than it did. Let me move this plant over next to my other one, to kind of show you the difference, and then talk a little bit more about placement. All right, so you can see here, over here is the Sun-Scorched Hydrangea, and it's been cleaned up so it looks better, but you can see kind of what it looks like compared to this one that was just 5-6 feet over, a little bit more shade, a little bit more protection from the heat of the day. And this thing is, you can even see there's some flowers that are just starting to turn blue. This one has some buds. I got one right here that you probably can't see in the camera. They're just starting to come up, but quite a difference the placement makes. So as you go through thinking about where you're going to be putting your hydrangea, a couple things to think about. You definitely do not want it in the bright, hot sun of the day. And that's typically, I would say, from 11 o'clock through 4 or 5 o'clock, depending on where you live. Here in the Northwest, that's pretty key here. So they do like shade. In fact, I've got some that I wonder if they get 4 hours of good sun, and they put flowers on there, they do pretty well. Kind of the normal thinking is 4 to 6 hours of some sun, morning sun, evening sun is great, filtered sun, that sort of thing. So as you place these, whether you're planting a young plant, transplanting, you have them in pots on your patio or whatever, it's a great plant for the shade areas, for the light sun, but it does matter. And again, if you get too much sun one week, clean it up. It'll come back in a couple weeks, and within a month or so should be back to a pretty good spot. If it gets too sun scorched, you might lose it for the season. Could possibly kill it, but you might lose it for the growing season. It'll come back the next year. And if you do know that a heat wave is coming, you might move the plant or give it some protection from that sun. Get a patio umbrella, something that can just kind of protect it from that heat during those couple days, and then when your weather kind of mellows out, chills out a bit, it'll be fine. But something to think about. Hopefully that's helpful. Again, if this is the kind of thing that you'd like to see more of, please comment. Let me know if there's anything I can answer questions on. I'll get back to you as soon as possible on those. But next video I'm going to go make is about concrete statues and how to repair them. So we'll see where the next backyard adventure takes me there. And hopefully you enjoy what you see. Thanks again. Bye.